Young man went up the mountain to gather herbs and found an injured weasel. Out of kindness he rescued the weasel and released it. Before leaving, the weasel bowed to the young man and paid its respects, wishing him a long life. This reminded the young man of a village legend. A weasel's bow is either a repayment of a favor or a precursor to revenge. Not long after, the young man found a pile of wild mountain mushrooms. He was instantly overjoyed. It was the first time he had ever seen such valuable wild mushrooms. He thought for sure the weasel was repaying him. After finishing harvesting the wild mushrooms, he had just returned home when he heard his grandfather say they were going to improve tonight's meal. Curious, the young man stepped forward to see what prey his grandfather had caught. Only then did he realize it was a weasel, and it was the very one he had just released. He told his grandfather about the weasel repaying him. He suggested that his grandfather let the weasel go. His grandmother also urged that the weasel not be killed. She said that in their village the weasel was revered like a deity. It should not be offended lightly. Then his grandmother said that not long ago a neighbor who had killed a weasel was punished in revenge. The neighbor's child was killed. The neighbor's wife became insane. Hearing this, his grandfather was not afraid. He thought the weasel's pelt was very valuable. If they skinned it they could sell it for a good price. That way they would not worry about food for the year. The grandmother and the young man disagreed, but the grandfather would not be persuaded and butchered the weasel. He then removed its pelt. Seeing this, the grandmother was terrified. She worried about being avenged by the weasel. She urged the grandfather to quickly bury the weasel and buy some offerings to worship it. But the grandfather said he would take the weasel to town to sell it. Having said that, he left despite the grandmother's objections. He strode past the village gate carrying the weasel. The villagers were terrified when they saw this. They all accused the grandfather of committing a sin. The grandfather ignored them. He wanted to sell the weasel. At that moment 4 strangers appeared behind him. They became interested as soon as they saw the weasel in the grandfather's hands. They said they specialized in collecting weasels. They asked the grandfather if he wanted to sell it to them. The grandfather asked how much they would pay. They generously produced 2 coins. Seeing this, the grandfather sold the weasel to them. They then asked the grandfather if he had more weasels. The grandfather said he had only caught 1 today. If they wanted more, he could go back to the mountain tomorrow. In the next second they struck a deal. The next day, the grandfather set out early with his hunting rifle to go hunting. Before long he spotted a weasel. He fired many shots, but the weasel escaped each time. In fact, that weasel had come to claim the grandfather's life.